What's happening, Green Teamers? So first episode of the hashtag FTHB, hashtag FTHS, that's gonna be a tongue twister, FAQs, first time home buyer and first time home sellers, frequently asked questions. Let's get into this, Greg.
What should I look for when walking through a house?
Robin, what should I look for when walking through a house? Wow. So this is an interesting thing, I guess, because it's absent of a bunch of context, right? So let's just throw in our own little meat grinder of a couple concepts. Let's imagine that she's looking at a detached home, you know? And so for me, the number one thing that you gotta be focused on is making sure that your non-negotiables are being met, right? So, and this can get easily lost too, because when you're out kind of in the hunt in the field, like you get kind of caught up in the emotional response of stuff, you know? And so as it's happening to you, you kind of lose track of the things that you kind of, you know, railroad tracked on day one that were important to you. So one thing that I like to do is kind of a cheat is I like to have the client's hot list in front of me so that when we're walking through a house, we can stay connected to the things that we sat down on day one and said were important to us and kind of use them as a cross check, right? So if like open floor plan was like atop the list, so as we're cruising through, we don't walk in there and go, does it have an open floor plan? Like and ruin the moment. But as you're cruising through and you're like, okay, this is vibing. Okay, so open floor plan? Yeah, okay, cool, it's got open. Like, and just kind of run through that stuff from there. And it also helps the left brain have as much of a role in the process as we know the right brain already does.
Jake wants to know, what are the hidden costs in buying a home, like outside the list price?
For obviously for a first-time home buyer, which is the point of this, there are a lot of costs that go into buying a home, right? And so at a very basic, you got to get with a mortgage planner and get together with a mortgage plan, right? So on one hand, you've got like someone who's going to give you a pre-qualification, right? And that's cool. That might identify your purchase power based on your income and your taxes and all that stuff and potential for down payment. But you got to get a mortgage plan that's taking into consideration a bunch of the other, we call them the 7 most important questions anybody's going to get asked before they get a loan or they get a home. So you can identify all the maybe unintentional items. Like, so for a buyer, one of the really important things to think about is that it's 3 piles of money, okay? The first pile of money you need is your down payment, right? The second pile of money you need is like all the closing costs and stuff that goes into actually purchasing the home. Like we get to hard costs, you know, like you're gonna have a home inspection, right? Or you better have a home inspection. You're also gonna have an appraisal if you're getting a loan. Your lender's gonna require that. Right there, that's a good $450 each. You're already getting close to $1,000. You gotta get your earnest money deposit over to escrow to hold your interest in the home before it actually goes off the market and the seller, you know, puts it into pending. And now that's not a fee, but that's a prepayment to your down payment. You gotta have that cash available. So there's all those little intricacies that go on dynamic with the process. But then the third pile of money that no one thinks about are the costs of actually buying the home and moving in the first place. Because I don't care what furniture you had before, it's never as cool in the new spot. So you're gonna get a new couch, you're gonna get a new chair, you're gonna get a new TV. There's all the hidden stuff. No one thinks about the third pile of cash, and that's one of the important ones to think about for yourself. Being honest about the fact that you're gonna divest money, not only in the down payment and the cost, but also once you move in.
Do I really need a realtor when buying a home? Second one is, what are some qualities and skills when looking for a real estate agent?
Okay, so first of all, do you need a real estate agent? The answer technically is no. And I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this one because the truth is that, you know, you're probably wired to understand the value and the benefit of having someone in your corner to go through possibly what are the top 5 hardest things you'll ever do in your entire life, okay? If this is your first rodeo, first time home buyer, right, hashtag, right? You wanna make sure that the agent that you're working with, it's not their first rodeo, right? Because otherwise you're both gonna be staring at each other with dumbfounded looks throughout the entire process. Anybody with a shingle, like a real estate license, can get you into a house. They can get you into a contract with a little bit of luck, right? Anybody can get you through a transaction with a little bit maybe of the same luck. The problem is that every single one of these deals, and we've been doing this the better half of 2 decades, And I guarantee you every single one of these deals is gonna get tested. There's gonna be something that happens in every single one of these deals that is just unbelievable. No one could have possibly accounted for it. Despite all of the prep and planning you put into it, it comes just slamming in like a torpedo to the side of your ship. And if you don't have the right team in place to be able to help you navigate through that, you're gonna sink. And so yes, I would say if there's any amount of energy, effort, or attention put into it, needs to be making sure that you get the right agent on your side and you get the right lender of your side, because shit is gonna hit the fan. So I would say the number one skill, and this is almost tough to define or quantify, but it's their ability to communicate. And that's more of a feeling, I think, because the truth is we all communicate differently too. So one person's style might be better suited or fit to another person's style. One size doesn't fit all, right? But the number one element is, does that person vibe with you? Because you're getting into a relationship with them, whether you want to believe it or not. It's kind of like speed dating. It's a little tricky in that capacity, but you got to be able to know what works best with you. You got to know yourself well enough to know what works best with you, so you can make sure that they're as in attunement with you on day one as they're going to be on day, 21, 61, 91, or whatever it's going to take, right? Because everybody shows up with their best qualities, but you got to be able to see through that a little bit and navigate and say, again, when the you know what hits the fan with us, is this someone that I'm going to be able to rely on in a relationship capacity to help me get through it? Or is that going to be the thing that then happens and then splits us apart? It's an impossible thing to quantify, so it just goes down to a feeling. And that's why you got to meet with everybody first, spend a good amount of time. I mean, we spend 90 minutes with every client at a minimum before we decide whether or not we're a good fit, and I would suggest the same for you. So hey, gang, listen. If you appreciate these at all, use our hashtag. We're going to go put this up at hashtag FTHB, hashtag FTHS, first time home buyer, first time home seller, hashtag FAQs. And thanks for hanging out. We'll see you back next week.